Hi everybody. So it kind of makes me laugh in a way that things go through a sort of fashion. So for ages, wind turbines were called wind generators. Then of course you got all of those jokes about baked beans and that got a bit tiresome, so they became wind generators. The latest thing is the aeromine. They're now referring to it as mining the air, which is just, you know, well, okay, fair enough, why not? The original aeromine was two NACA airfoils, the F1 airfoils, and they were positioned against each other to create an area of low pressure. That, of course, got developed into an aeromine type with a pipe in the middle and then a couple of airfoils around there. I've seen wind aeromines made from Savonius wind turbines. So instead of calling them Savonius, they're actually putting them in a structure and saying, hey look, we've got an aeromine. And I did exactly the same thing with the Darwin wind tower. It was kind of like aero mining. So it's becoming the fashion to call wind turbines aeromines, which I think is hilarious, really. But it's also the fashion. Now, the original aeromine, like I say, was two airfoils. These, incidentally, were designed for me by a friend of mine called Peter, who brought these along. He printed off on his 3D printer, and they're NACA F1 airfoils with a few holes down the middle. And I looked at those and thought, actually, yeah, that's really kind of cool, because those are the aeromine shape, and wouldn't it be great to build an original aeromine to see how it actually performed? So when he gave me the STL file, of course, I went to the elegoo printer. Remember this? It's the Neptune 3D Plus that elegoo sent me for a review. We've done some review stuff, and we've also been doing large prints on it. We were printing this thing, an Archimedes screw, and I've paused that print session at the moment because I want to print those airfoils based on this. Incidentally, if you do this, reminds me of being a 1980s DJ, wacka wacka whoop. Anyway, let's get these printed off large scale on this. That printer is really capable of doing some massive work, is it not? So here is my NACA F1 airfoil with a load of holes down here and a hole there. Incidentally, if this works out and anybody's interested in that STL file, I'll ask Peter's permission, but I'll send it to you if he says it's okay. So I've printed two of these. I warn you, it did take days to print them. These filament printers are brilliant, but a little bit slow. But even so, we now have this. Now, I did think about doing this manually, and you could just cut these sizes and stack them up. But the contact time on a 3D printer actually is nothing. I mean, you set it going in about 5 minutes and leave it until it's printed. However, it is a huge step of faith because, of course, we've used 2.5 kilos of filament in this. It's taken 4 to 5 days to print it, and you don't want a failed print. But this elegoo actually is just plugging on, printing and printing and printing, which is really cool because these are big components. Okay, so we now have our F1 airfoils all ready for our original aeromine. So there's nothing particularly special about the support structure that I've built. All I did was cut 3 squares of plywood, drill a couple of holes in the top, and there's some dowels. And that makes the bottom, and that's actually going to be the top. Now the airfoil, equally I haven't done anything much with that. I've just jammed a bit of 32mm pipe up that centre section, and these pipes slot into the holes that I've put there, making sure they're facing inwards, and then we'll put the top on. And that's my airmine finished. Okay, so here's my experimental setup. There's my aeromine. I've got a fan pointing at it. We'll blow that fan over it. What it should do is create a low pressure area where those holes are, and that should suck air up through these pipes. So we should get a draft of air coming up through these pipes. Now to test that, I've got a bit of yellow cotton, and we'll have a look, see if they can lift the cotton into the pipe. So if it does, of course, it's creating a draft. So let's give that a go and see what happens. Okay, well that was certainly interesting. I mean, this design, this thing I built is certainly not very well optimised. There's a lot of things that I'm unsure about, the distance between the two plates, the hole position, the hole size, etc, etc. But it's enough for us to get an idea about this. And we can see that it does produce a draw at the bottom of these pipes. But if we think about this in a common sense way, then we know that the airflow across an airfoil like that is speed dependent. The faster that flow, the greater the lift, and of course that means that the greater the pressure difference between here, and so the greater the draw. So I strongly suspect that this will operate really well in high wind speeds and a bit poor in low wind speeds. I mean, this only puts out about 3.5 meters per second, and I think we'd be lucky to light an LED with all of this structure. And we've certainly made other devices that operate in low wind speeds really far more impressively than this. Now, the claim about this is it's better than a solar cell. And of course, that's a bit difficult to actually assess, because what do they mean? Are they talking about the footplate, in which it probably is, because you could make it a mile high? Or are they talking about volume, in which case I wouldn't really be too sure about that. I mean, it's got real positive things. I mean, no external moving parts is obviously brilliant, and that's a great thing without a doubt. But overall, well, it seems a bit 6 2/3 to me. So the problem with wind power is, well, it's important and it's a little bit of a Wild West show, with everybody coming out with their designs and claiming they're super. It's also subject to fashion. Now, the Aeromine original and the developments of it are certainly modern looking, they're certainly designed, they certainly appeal on a level. But whether they perform better than more traditional designs or alternative designs, I still think the jury's out on that one. Certainly, if you're looking to make this for yourself, I wouldn't really think that it was a particularly good one to make. If you want to explore it and have fun, why not? Knock yourself out. But to make NACA airfoils without the aid of something like a 3D printer is a considerable amount of work. I don't think they'll perform that well in the average wind speeds that we've got to justify the work involved in them. Now, as I say, we are subject to fashion much more than we like to think we are. Just the development of the name and everybody grabbing onto it makes me a little bit more suspicious of it. But I don't think it's time to abandon traditional wind turbines just yet. I think the Aeromine remains an interesting thing, and we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.